We've been anchoring inside volcanoes for much of the last 10 years, but to be honest, it's still always a thrill. Just next door to Banta with its 2 volcanic cones is beautiful Sangean. Between 1512 and 2014, it's known to have erupted at least 19 times.
Hello, hello, and good morning, and welcome to another beautiful day. We had a nice time in Bima. I can't remember if I said to camera before, but it doesn't have a very good rep, certainly in terms of cruising anyway. And I think it's just because this bottle-shaped bay has a small entrance to it, which means all the rubbish comes in and can't escape. And so there is a lot of crap in the water. In fact, we got something wrapped around the prop yesterday. We started getting a horrible knocking noise, which of course sent me a bit crazy because I started imagining all sorts of things. But when we dropped the hook and I put the boat into a stern, whatever was around the prop, I think unwrapped, because this morning it seems to be okay. But we really enjoyed Bima, and in fact I went in twice, second time to do that photo walk. So today we are going to be heading towards the little island of Banta, and Banta is in between Sumbawa and Komodo. It's a good 40 odd miles today. As you can see, no wind at the moment, but there is some wind forecast to be coming in from the southeast, so we want to try and sort of get across before that starts coming in, because once that comes in, that's going to be blowing for about 10 days in the wrong direction. So we want to try and get across to the island of Flores, which is the next big island, and then we can start exploring all around the sort of Komodo National Park area. So yeah, that's my little update for this morning. I hope you're well, and I will speak to you again soon. Over my right shoulder is the volcano island of Sangean, I think it's pronounced. I've been endlessly fascinated with this island. This is the one that we could see 70 odd miles away when we came across the top in the Flores Sea last year. We could just see this island peeking out over the horizon in the late afternoon sun. And the reason why I'm fascinated by it is if you look at it on a satellite image and even the charts, it is almost a perfect circle. Perfect circle. The other reason why I'm fascinated about it is that there is nowhere to anchor around it. The depths are like this. There are actually a couple of annotations on Navionics, but they both contain the words deep, indicating probably 40 odd meters, and that's literally in only 2 spots around the whole island. There's a couple of little settlements on there, but not much going on. The other thing that's going to be appearing over my right shoulder is a big vessel, a big cargo ship. And I'm happy to say that our VHF works, because I just radioed through to him just to check that we're going to pass port to port as we come around the top northeast corner of Sumbawa and out into the open sea heading towards Banta. Albeit very slowly. We've got 2 knots of current against us at the moment, so it's slow progress today.
We left Sumbawa this morning, the island of Sumbawa, on our way to the next island. And we're nearly there. It's Pulau Banta, it's right in front of me. Nobody lives there, but it's supposed to be very beautiful. And I've spent most of the day below decks. It was too hot for me earlier on, and we were just going along in a flat sea motoring. So I've done loads of boat jobs, which is great. Got some of those done, including mending this camera. Anyway, Banta is in front of me, and behind Banta, a bit further on, is Komodo. There be dragons, and then beyond Komodo is the island of Flores, which is where we're planning to be over the next month or so.
Behind me is Banta. We've got the head sail out just to keep us stabilised. The wind's very tight on the nose, of course, and we've got that current against us again, so the speed slowed a little, but yeah, this is where we're aiming for this afternoon. And it reminds me of a It could be a British Islands isle, couldn't it? Looks like it should have puffins on it. It's uninhabited, and you can see there isn't actually much growth. It is green, but I imagine it's probably just grass rather than rainforest. Anyway, we're going to try and tuck into the North Bay. It's not a great anchorage apparently, but we've got some southerlies coming up over the night, so hopefully that will provide a little bit of protection from that. And I'm hoping that that northerly swell has died down. So let's find out. Well, that took us 11 hours to do 44 miles. We had current the whole way against us. So much for Windy's current prediction, eh? We're supposed to have current with us the whole way. Aside from that, some absolutely spectacular scenery. First of all, of course, Sumbawa, then Sangean, that incredible volcano on its own that you can see from many miles away, and then finally Banta. Look at this place. Isn't it amazing? Now there's this tiny little patch that we've dropped the hook in. We ended up dropping in about 22 metres, put out 70 or so, 75, and we've settled in 30. But the distance to the reef around the edge there is quite short, so keep an eye on it. But if any weather does come in, it's hopefully going to come from the south, behind these great big mountains here. Could get some catabatics, or from the west. We saw some clouds building. I'm not sure if they're coming that way. Anyway, look at this place. It's what it's all about.
Pulau Banta is a spectacular cliché of deserted white sand beaches, technicolor fish, fringing coral and turquoise sea blue water. To be completely honest, its majesty stunned us into silence. Even though Banta doesn't come under the conservation protection afforded to the islands of the Komodo National Park, you still have to ensure you keep your anchor clear of the coral. Along the vast northern beach where we were, there's just one tiny patch of seabed suitable to anchor a sailboat. When we were there, we shared the entire bay with a couple of local fishing boats and saw no one else. There aren't any paths, and no one lives there, but we were told you can easily climb the foothills for fantastic views across the Komodo National Park. Or if the heat is too much, use your drone to capture some breathtaking footage. Its mountains are green but barren of trees, just some clumps of shrubs affording a little shelter. Komodo's dragons haven't made it across the fierce currents to Banta. Did you know they can swim? But there is some stunning bird life, including eagles patrolling from above the highest points. This is Banta. This is Pulau Banta, Gili Banta, whichever you prefer. It's an island. Basically, it is a volcano. That's all it is. And it's the closest, I think, that we've been to being back on Krakatoa. As we came in, you could see all the triangles coming down from the peak. And that's basically what we saw when we were at Krakatoa just after it had erupted. And you could see the flow. So I don't know the technical term, pyroclastic flow, comes down in huge valleys from the top of the peak. And that's what you've got here, which I didn't realise until as we came in, the shadows really differentiated them nicely. And this is, I guess, what Krakatoa will look like in a few hundred years or maybe longer, because we've now got lots of growth everywhere. We've got lots of birds we heard singing this morning. But it's great, so it's like seeing the next point on from where it was when we were at Krakatoa. It's hot here, but there is quite a lot of breeze, and we're getting kind of katabatic winds swirling around, so that just makes it bearable. Lovely. No one here. The difference between Banta and Krakatoa is that no evidence of any activity within the last 10,000 years has been found here. It's dormant, unlike Krakatoa, which is still puffing away. We've been anchoring inside volcanoes for much of the last 10 years, but to be honest, it's still always a thrill. Banta Island is one great big caldera, with the remnants of an ancient volcano forming its backbone across the top and its fingers to the south. Just next door to Banta, with its 2 volcanic cones, is beautiful Sangean. One of the more active volcanoes in the Lesser Sunda Islands. Its inhabitants were evacuated in 1988, and between 1512 and 2014 it's known to have erupted at least 19 times.
Well, what an absolutely bloody marvellous anchorage that was. The annotations on Navionics had warned of swell wrapping around, but after we passed Sangean, that big volcanic island, the swell dropped away, and when we came in here there was no swell. We had current against us, but no swell at all. One of the other annotations also said chain wrapping around the bombing. Now, we put out 70 odd metres, and when we pulled up the first 10 it was quite tight, so it was obviously laying across the top of something, but after that it was fine. And I have to say, 2 of the best night's sleep I have had. It was absolutely flat calm in here. Anyway, what a stunning anchorage. If you find yourself in this direction, definitely come to Banta. It's that word, it is truly awesome. Behind you is the island of Komodo, and while you may not have heard of the islands of Sumbawa or Banta where we've just stayed, you'll almost certainly have heard of Komodo. It is of course where the Komodo dragon lives, so we're keeping our eyes peeled to see if we can see any dragons meandering around on the beaches as we come over the top of Komodo. Not entirely sure what the situation is in terms of officially visiting it. It goes through phases. Sometimes they close the park down completely, and other times they allow visitors onto Komodo. I think visitors' passes are getting more and more expensive. Komodo National Park is actually made up of a number of islands. You've got Komodo itself, which is the big island next to Banta, which is just over my shoulder there. But then there's a number of other islands leading up to Labuan Bajo, which is the port town of the big island of Flores. That's the next big island running east to west as we are approaching it now. So we're just going to take in another anchorage, I think, today before going to Labuan Bajo, and we just need to be aware of currents. That is something we have not discussed. I will talk a little bit more about that another time, but the currents around here are notorious. So at the moment we've got current against us, but we're doing all right, and as you can see we're just doing a little bit of motor sailing. We've got a couple of sails out just to push us along a little bit. Not much wind of course. Well, we did just anchor. We anchored on the northwest corner in this little bay here, but someone's not in a good mood today. Someone didn't get much sleep last night. I slept very well, thank you very much, but anyway, a bit of moaning and complaining. It's a shame really, because that was a nice little spot that. Apparently there are manta rays there. No dragons though. I scanned the whole of this horizon looking for dragons, couldn't see any. Anyway, we're going to go back to our original plan, which is to go over the top of Komodo and to this other island. But along the way we thought, well, you know, I managed to get a forecast, and it's blowing all from the south, which is good for us coming across the top on the north side. which is why we thought we'd duck into one of these anchorages on our way over. But anyway, we're not doing that. We're going back to our original plan.
We've made it to Komodo National Park, finally. Here we are, surrounded by dragons, islands full of dragons. In fact, we did stop earlier and I made Jamie move. Well, I didn't make him move, I just said I'm not getting off the boat, I'm not going on that land, I'm not doing, because there are dragons potentially anywhere in Komodo, and they're not like monitor lizards. These things will eat you. And I'm just not prepared to take the risk. So anyway, we upped anchor and we're now on our way across the bay. Komodo's there, Linka's in front of us. Linka, they have even more dragons than they do on Komodo, but then north of that are some nice little islands that are dragon free, and hopefully we're going to find an anchorage on one of those islands. Another hour or two yet to go there, but it's very different. Komodo, very, very different to what we've been used to along these range of islands of Indonesia. So Lombok and Sumbawa from shore, from the boat looking to shore, covered in forests of trees. Sure, yeah, there was some farming as well, but here the mountains are quite denuded. Perhaps they never had trees in the first place, but there are not many trees. So the landscape it's not exactly lunar because it's green, but it's quite different part. Quite different to where we've been earlier. So interested to see what we're going to find when we go ashore.
We've just dropped anchor and we've actually been looking for a couple of moorings and they're not here. These moorings are charted, they are mentioned in the cruising guide, but there's no sign of them, and this is obviously to do with COVID. Cruising guide itself, I think, was published in 2016, so it is quite out of date. And I guess what they probably did was take away the moorings during COVID and haven't put them back out. So they're actually probably doing us a favour, because you don't want to be taking an old mooring that hasn't been serviced for ages. Anyway, in the cruising guide it said just anchor at the top of this little V shape. So we've got this rather interesting looking weather-worn rock behind us with a fishing boat anchored on the reef around it. And we're at the tip of this V here, pointing straight out open to the north, which normally could be quite swelly, but as we found from Banta, there's been no swell whatsoever. So anyway, we'll see how we get on here. It seems all right so far. Bit of rain behind us. Let's just see how we settle.
So we've never been anywhere that looks like this before. This is absolutely new, and on the chart it says 7 mushrooms, and there's this bloody rock here. It looks like Hobbiton on Sea. It's all so twee and funny and sort of I don't know, like Toyland. Definitely going to explore tomorrow.